Hey everybody, it's Mr. K. Welcome back to music. This week, we're going to continue on learning about woodwind instruments by learning about an instrument called the saxophone. Now, the saxophone is a very unique instrument, okay, because it combines two different things. It combines woodwinds, which means it uses that little thing we call a reed, right? Let's see if that works today. No, of course not. But that little piece of wood, it's a little bit bigger than the one for clarinet because the saxophone is bigger, but it combines the woodwind family and the other family we're going to learn about starting next week called the brass family. Now, the thing to remember about the instrument families is that they're determined by what makes the sound, not what the instrument is made out of. So this little piece of wood, I use wind blowing on it, and it vibrates and causes the air to vibrate, and that's where we get woodwind from. Brass uses a different way to play their instruments, and like I said, we'll learn about that later on. But like I said, the saxophone is very unique because it combines woodwind and brass, but we still call it a woodwind instrument. It's also unique because the saxophone has only been around for about less than 200 years. The saxophone was created around 1840, so before the American Civil War, and it's the youngest instrument that we have except for electronic instruments, which didn't come out until the 1900s. Now, even though it's so young, just like the clarinet, there are a whole bunch of different sizes. There's itty bitty ones that are about this big to ones that are taller than my house here because they play super low notes and the tiny ones play super high notes. The saxophone is an instrument that we normally see in marching bands, regular bands, and jazz bands. Saxophone is a huge instrument for use in jazz band. In fact, it was one of the first instruments that was included in jazz. So let's go over a little bit about the saxophone itself. Okay, I have a mouthpiece for a saxophone here that you can see. It looks a little bit or a lot like the one that we had on the clarinet, and that's because it is pretty much the same thing. We have the hard plastic, and we have our reed, and then this little thing is called the ligature, and it holds the reed onto there. When I blow into it, it makes the reed vibrate just like the clarinet. Now, without the saxophone, it makes some crazy sounds. Yee. Not a very fun sound to have, is it? Especially those of you who are wearing headphones. I suppose I should give a headphone alert. Maybe I'll do that in post. But obviously, this isn't what we want to hear. What we want to hear is the saxophone. This is my saxophone. I've had this for, I want to say about 5 years now. So, it works the same way as a clarinet. The vibrations start here, and they work their way down till they get to the first open hole. Now, the thing about this one is it's a little bit different from the clarinet. On the clarinet, my fingers could cover the holes. On the saxophone, my fingers touch buttons. You can see these buttons that are right here that my fingers sit on. Over here are some. What happens when I push a button down, it closes some of the holes. You can see it going down and touching. See if I can do it this way for you. That little pad, that brown pad, closes a hole, and what that does is just like the clarinet, it makes my instrument longer so that the vibrations go through and they change our different notes. So putting down different fingers gives me different notes. Whoops. Sorry about that. It's been a while since I played a saxophone. It's been in storage since my accident. But saxophone is, again, that is an alto saxophone. And there are a whole bunch of different sizes. Check out this picture. And that's just 8 sizes. Those are the basic ones. We know that there are at least 25 different sizes of saxophones that have been created or made, and a lot of them don't really get made anymore, but they existed at one time. One of the videos that I'm going to link you to in the bottom actually has a saxophone that they don't make anymore called a sub-contrabass. And when you see all of the army guys standing around it, it's taller than they are. And they used to use that for marching band. Can you imagine having that in marching band? Something that's taller than you are? You're carrying it around? I would just quit marching band if I'm honest. Now, I said that the alto saxophone or the saxophone is used in band, jazz band, and marching band, but I didn't say it's used in orchestra. The reason they don't use the saxophone in orchestra is because orchestra, which is all the other instruments sort of combined together in a big group, that existed a very, very long time before the saxophone came around. And so there's no orchestra music from a long time ago that has saxophone in it. So they don't really include the saxophone in the orchestra. It's a little sad, but that just means that saxophone gets to really blast everybody for jazz band. So once again, let's go over some more of this. My light's not the best. I'll put it up here. You can see that my saxophone is made of metal. Remember, the flute's made of metal too, but all of our woodwind instruments have usually been made of plastic, or, way a long time ago they were made of wood. The saxophone has always been made of metal, which is brass. This is the type of metal it's made of. You can see it has the bell. This is right here where the sound comes out. All right, we have our mouthpiece, which is where the sound goes in. This is the neck. This is a little curved piece. This is not on every saxophone. Some of the smaller ones you'll see are straight out like a clarinet, and that's cool too. This helps it so that I can hold the saxophone in the right position while I'm playing. That way I'm not sitting like this or sitting like this and having it blow back in my face. Okay, and it curves down here too to make sure that the sound goes that way and not towards the ground like a clarinet. Yeah, I know. I know today's lesson was a little bit short because it was only about the saxophone. And again, the saxophone's pretty new, so it's hard to kind of get a whole lot in on it. Next week, we're going to learn about brass instruments, starting with the trumpet. Please make sure that you do your quiz. Please make sure you do your quiz and hand it in, and I will see you during your meets this week. Have a good one.